Do the words free time or relaxation sound foreign to you? Perhaps you've been stuck in the office too long, battling cyber threats or worrying about the next strain of ransomware. Let Sophos help provide peace of mind 24/7, 365 with cybersecurity delivered as a service. Because we want you to get back to your weekends, family dinners, and everything in between. And you'll get there with Sophos. Visit securityweekly.com/Sophos to learn more.
Business Security Weekly is recorded on Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Each week, we address the challenges facing CISOs through our guest interviews, including former and active CISOs. Our news segment is focused on leadership and communication to better help security leaders translate and communicate security risks into business risks. Jason Albuquerque, Ben Carr, Tyler Robinson, and others add their expertise to the conversation. I'm Matt Alderman, and I hope you search for Business Security Weekly in your favorite podcast catcher and subscribe to download our latest content.
Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. Enough of Matt Alderman. Let's get to the news. But first, an announcement. As a member of the Security Weekly community, we are pleased to offer you 20% off your InfoSec World 2023 tickets. Join a community of over 2,000 security professionals and innovators at InfoSec World on September 25th through 27th at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort. Experience world-class learning and networking through enlightening keynotes, informative panel discussions, interactive breakout sessions, hands-on workshops, and more. Register today at securityweekly.com/InfoSec World 2023 using code ISW23-SecWeek20. All right, now for the Enterprise Security Weekly news. You can check out securityweekly.com/ESW312 if you want to follow along as we go through the news. All right. Where's my co-host? Where are they at? There we go. Hi, guys. We're gonna, for folks watching today's episode, we're gonna try showing all of us all the time for the news segment here. All right, so we got some funding here, pretty good amount of Series A, Series B, Series C funding here. We got 10 fundings up here. We got CrowdStrike. What do they call it? CrowdStrike Ventures. CrowdStrike Falcon Fund.
Yeah, it's their corporate venture capital arm, pretty much.
Yeah, and I mean, what I always wonder when I see these is this basically an intent to acquire? I think when we see these things, when we see like Salesforce Ventures or Cisco Ventures investing in companies, like how much of a signal is that hey, we want an option to buy at some point?
Not as much as you would think. So yes, they're going to invest in theses that make sense and companies that make sense for their greater vision of Cisco or CrowdStrike or whatever the investing arm is working under. So they're going to look for certain investment theses that fit. And basically what they're looking for is optionality and to stay close to the founders. And so it's the ability to remain, to have the option to acquire at some point. There's generally not always a requirement or commitment that they're going to acquire. It's just more of a, hey, we want to be involved. Here's a little bit of capital to show that we're serious. There's skin in the game. Obviously, they're looking for a return on that capital, right? They're not giving that away as an investment just to have optionality, but that is definitely one of the key things they're looking for is to stay close to the firm because it fits a thesis for the longer-term vision of the bigger company.
And the other interesting aspect here is this is a technology integration as well. In a lot of these cases, it's not just money changing hands, but they're doing joint sales stuff and marketing stuff together. They're integrating their products together. So it seems like I don't know. I think that's interesting. Is that a good thing generally? Like with money changing hands and technology integration, does that just say that they're really going all in?
Yeah, it means they're committed. They're committed to the move. They're committed to the direction of the market. They're committed to that partner. And you got to understand, most of the time, these strategic investments. Now, CrowdStrike Ventures is might be different. I don't know specifically, but I've done a number of these deals with other companies in the past, and they're basically $1 million, $2 million, right? We're not talking about a $10 or $20 million investment in a Series A or anything like that. They're usually a very small percentage of the overall round.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and there's a few. So the trend of not knowing the deal size on some of these is kind of continuing. There's a few things where we see and this is one of the cases where Abnormal Security's last raise was a $210 million Series C in May 2022, and this is just a venture round.
Very open to interpretation.
But that would sort of, it would go along with what you were saying about it, Tyler, right? Like, this isn't necessarily intended to be some sort of huge round to completely and utterly revolutionize the company. It's just, hey, confidence in your product. Hey, like where it's going. Maybe we have some influence. Maybe we don't. Maybe down the road we do some acquisition. Maybe we don't. But this is just, so even if it is $1 million or 10 million or something, just a small thing, you don't necessarily want to say, our company isn't doing well, because people will automatically assume if it's a down round, there's something amiss. And this isn't the case with this kind of thing.
Yeah, I doubt that this is a down round. It's probably a consistent extension round or a minor up round. I mean, at the end of the day, it always depends on how good the company's doing. How good is Abnormal doing? How much have they grown since the last round? Have they grown into that round? Was the last round overinflated? We don't know. There's no way to know. My gut tells me that Katie's probably spot on here, and this is just a situation where Abnormal Security probably took in $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, something in that range, just to be closer to CrowdStrike.
Yeah, and we've got another weird one in here. I think story number 4, Stravacity, I guess is how you would say that. That's a Series A2.
A2, that's a new term.
Very often. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess kind of like an extension to the A2. Somebody described it to me as implies new capital was infused at the same valuation as the last round.
That's right. Yeah, it's just what you'll hear it often referred to at the seed stage. You'll often hear it as a seed extension. I've never really heard A2, but it's the same concept. That's just an extension where we've reopened the round, taking in more funding at that same exact price.
Right. So just adding to the existing cap table without
Yep.
And interesting.
When I opened this story, I thought it was a Gap ad at first.
Yeah. The image. Yeah, it does. It does. I love the images. That's honestly, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I love the team images. It's always interesting to see how they decide to do that, because sometimes it's just the founders. Like we had one a good number of shows ago, maybe a dozen shows ago, where it really looked like a fashion ad. Like these guys were wearing sunglasses and they, these snazzy suits and sneakers and stuff like that. It really looked like a fashion ad. But yeah, I love that.
Yeah, there's some good-looking dudes over there at Stravacity. Co-founders Keith and Steven. Yeah.
I did. I really thought it was a Gap ad. So,
their smiles are so good. Their smiles are.
They're
so
just
good.
having a good time with the photo shoot. They're just having a good time. Just happy guys.
So Stravacity
they just raised $20 million.
It's a cloud-native customer identity and access management, a CIAM vendor for the Fortune 1000. Yet another 4-letter acronym.
I know.
Does anyone know how to pronounce it?
No.
CIAM? I don't know. We should ask Forrester. They did a wave. They did a wave on customer identity and access management Q4 2022. So it's their term, or likely their term.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I wonder if this is. I've also seen an identity posture management category. So I wonder if it's basically the same thing, just different acronyms. But I've seen a lot of the SaaS identity stuff now where it fits somewhere in between an IDP and an SSPM, I guess. I don't fully understand that.
There's so much overlap. If you were to Venn diagram all these, man, you would have no spots where anything is solo. Everything is over, Venn diagrammed over at least two or three things these days. It's kind of crazy, but the new investment brings Stravastity's total funding to $28 million. Good for them. Hopefully they're off and running. I mean, you're not going to get an additional round of funding at presumably, because it's an A2, presumably even the same rate anymore as having done it before, right? You're going to take a down round. So good for them if it is a consistent fly round.
Yeah, so creating surprisingly simple customer sign-in journeys is the messaging that they're using here. Interesting. Okay. So there were two that I found really surprising here. Two that names that I remembered from the old days. Actually, three if you count SCADAfence. But Votiro, SCADAfence, and Hypori are three companies that I followed back in like my early analyst days. And here they are raising like Series B for Hypori, Series A for Votiro. Like, did they just clear the cap tables and start over from scratch? What is going on here?
Wow, really that long? I mean, you're really old. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, Series A Hypori is 2021, but this company's been around since. Oh, they're saying founded 2021. They were not founded 2021, unless they just have the same name.
You're just getting old, and your brain is starting to get scrambled, Adrian.
I am not. I will not concede that. Well, see here, Votiro at least founded 2010. Votiro was founded 2010. Votiro
2010. So they're raising an $11.5 million Series A 12 years later?
Yeah, and they're still doing the same thing. They're basically cleaning up files. So what they do is they just like recreate a PDF or something like that in an effort to strip out any malicious macros in a spreadsheet or something like that. They do document sanitization is what they used to call it. File sanitization.
12-year-old company raising their Series A. So that indicates one of two things. Either hyper successful and never had to raise and just have been consistently growing in a very, very healthy way, or flush the cap table and start over. My gut tells me they've probably just been consistent. They probably have not fallen to the overfunding train and has done a good job and a healthy job of building the company in a way that makes good business sense regardless of the funding atmosphere of the last decade.
I mean, I guess if they had like a really good partner program, like sanitizing files is something you could sell to everybody if it's the right price, if it's cheap enough, right? Like Proofpoint, like all the email security vendors, maybe some of the cloud vendors, just cleaning up files with malicious stuff in them.
They do. If you go to their website, they do have a really good partner ecosystem. Okay. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Hypori, I'm a little bit more confused about, because the Hypori I remember was like you could have a virtual work instance on your phone. So you could have an iPhone and basically you would remote into a virtual Android instance running in the cloud somewhere. And the idea was if anything malicious happened on that you had the separation between the data on your personal device. So you'd have your personal data, your work data. And we saw a bunch of mobile MDM companies. Google bought one. I think BlackBerry bought one that tried to have different enclaves on the same smartphone, right? And Hypori was, they called it virtualization, but it was basically...
it can't be the same company, Adrian.
It
desktop
is.
As a service.
I think it is. Look on their website. The first thing, 100% separation of enterprise and personal data. They added zero trust architecture. Secure access
truly
to
secure
public,
BYOD.
private cloud. Yeah.
That's great.
And I don't know why they're saying they're founded in 2021, because I was covering them back in 2014.
Huh. Good question. Maybe they flushed the cap table, refounded the company. Who knows?
I guess so. Perhaps. All right. Yeah, that was it was a bit weird seeing that. It was some deja vu in the funding stuff here. And SCADAfence has been sorry, go ahead.
The fact that we even can remember companies from that long ago, Adrian, is a bad sign, my friend. Like, I remember when BlackBerry was the hotness. Like, come on, man. The gray hairs are showing. And now we're in 3-up mode, so everybody can see mine. So.
Well, but that's also the first thing to go is the short-term memory. So.
Oh, true. Yeah. So this is interesting. Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with SCADAfence, but their Series A was 2017. Their Series B was 2021, and then this is another venture round, just described as a venture round.
But again, you'll see it's Fujitsu and Mitsubishi Electric as new investors, so it's probably just another one of those corporate venture capital rounds where it's a few million each, and they're just taking it in to get the strategic partnership locked in.
Yeah. All right. Anything else here look interesting to you guys before we move past the fundings?
Did you happen to take any time to look at C data by chance? Like into the number 10, 11. Actually, I'm jumping past fundings. Are there any fundings that you want to go through first?
The only other one I was going to mention was Push Security, which is kind of like a PLG approach to a competitor with a company that I work for, with Valence. It's basically like you can go create an account, and it's go look at all your SaaS stuff, let you know about your integrations, and you can just go open an account and do it. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. Doesn't have a ton of features, but I love products where I can just go in and play around with them, where I don't have to have a minimum of 100 users or something like that just to test out the product and see what it's about.
So I'm going to ask you point blank, because we all know my predilections to what I think about PLG and product-led growth. Do you think that actually turns into a business? Like, if Adrian or insert random Joe person, one person here, can get in and use your technology the way Push is designed to allow a single human being to get on there, do you think it results in an actual increase in business, or are we approaching the go-to-market, or are they approaching the go-to-market incorrectly there?
I don't know what their exit strategy is, but I see this being like an ideal Barracuda or Sophos exit here. Somebody who serves the mid-market. And I don't know if they've got a good channel program. I could see it working, but yeah, you need a lot of people to sign up, to start making money off this approach.
Then there's just not enough cyber people on the planet. The reason why PLG works for developers is because there's 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1 when you compare them to quantity of cyber people. When we're talking about cyber people, it's just not enough. You could get all of them. It's probably still not enough. But my follow-on question that I have, because you may know this market, you do know this market way better than I do, isn't this concept of SaaS security? I think that's what they're doing here, Push Security. I haven't done a deep dive on them. But isn't the concept of SaaS security, isn't it just really about where you're collecting the data from? Isn't that the fundamental difference? So some SaaS security vendors I know collect the data via connecting into your Gmail, so that anytime any of your users sign up for a SaaS service, they see the email confirmation, and they now know you're on a SaaS service. Others work in a CASB or reverse proxy mode model to look at data outbound. Is that the fundamental difference between SaaS style vendors, is how they collect the data? I believe that the majority of them are able to do similar capabilities with regards to integrations and configurations and things like that. But it seems like the data collection point is the big differentiation.
No, I don't think that's the only big. It's just a well-known use case. Discovering, doing the discovery piece. That's where CASB started. Is they would you'd shove your firewall logs or proxy logs into them, or they'd have an agent, that or a browser extension or something like that, and that's how you discover what stuff, where your employees are shoving data, that they signed up for Evernote or Notion or whatever, and they're putting stuff in there. But yeah, discovery is just one use case. And, so a lot of the other SSPM is more focused on, hey, let's instead of starting with discovery, let's start with your main Office 365 or Google Workspace and work out from there. Start with the stuff that is managed, that you do know about. And there's all kinds of stuff you're not aware of that's happening. Like, I'm building a report right now, and it's like an average of, I want to say, like 49 files shared per employee across everything. Wow. And it's a lot higher at some companies, because what people do is they'll say share with anybody with the link, and you only need to share it once. Like there should be an option where that's only open for 24 hours, right? Or only until the first time it's accessed, and then you close it back down. All those stay open. So some of the research we've done, we found, I think the average is 90% of data shared is completely idle, has been idle for the last 90 days. Like literally it's share once, leave open forever, and completely forget about it. So that's kind of another, and you're looking at not just data shares, but, identities, configurations. Does everybody have MFA enabled?
But now you're getting beyond just SaaS security, and you're really starting to get into SaaS configuration, and you're getting into cloud configuration. And again, here's where the Venn diagram starts to overlap with other 4-letter acronyms.
Well, yeah, I mean, all these products, all these security products, especially the posture management ones, go back to visibility. The fact that you don't know that you've got 1 million open shares, right? Like that's a problem. You need some visibility on that. And you need to know that 98% of them, you could close them right now. And that's kind of our sweet spot, is we can automatically close, 990,000 of those things. And no employee's even going to notice, because nobody's touched those for over 3 months.
Right.
So yeah, just kind of, going through and organizing and cleaning up all that stuff is I think the big use case for SaaS security that here. Threat detection is also an interesting one. Like we talked about in an earlier segment, like there's this one adversary, I forget the name of the adversary, that goes after Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace admin accounts. And then they do business email compromise from the inside out. So basically, they make themselves look like an internal employee, and that's how they hit you with the business email compromise, because they're basically a super admin in Google terms, or I forget what Microsoft calls the equivalent of a super admin. But yeah, so when somebody gets that, or if somebody steals your Slack OAuth token and logs in from a different country or something like that, like there's a big use case for threat detection there.
Gotcha. I knew you'd know what you were talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff, because that's where the whole business has gone, right? Like all your emails and files are in these applications, and you got little to no visibility on what's going on with them.
And so that, my friends, is why he's the #1 host on this show.
This well, you threw me a softball. I'm working in this market right now. But thank you. You asked about C-data. Let's jump over to C-data now.
The reason why I asked about C-data and wondered if you dove into them at all is, as a investor, I hear rumblings well before things come out of stealth and well before things get funded and things like that. And I've been hearing about C-data for 6 months. As you got to check out C-data. Have you talked to? You got it. Literally, like everybody I talked to is, have you talked to C-data yet? And I was curious if you had the chance to dig into what they do.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, Ativo, Thinkst, right? This market. Yeah. So what looks different here, and there's only so much I can tell from the website, I would love to get a briefing or a demo on this, is like one of the big points of friction is, okay, where am I going to put my honeypots? Where am I going to put my honey tokens? And generally that's a manual thing, or one of the things I did when I was at Thinkst is I put together scripts that would help you automate placing these tokens. Like you could put every laptop would get a fake Word document, basically. And if somebody opened that Word document, you would know that they have access to that machine. And you could write a script to do that. So it looks like the main differentiator here is that's part of the product. Like they're going to automatically generate and place those for you, so you don't have that mental friction of having to lay out a plan and decide, okay, where am I going to put these things? Because it's a little bit, and I'd love to see how they're doing it, because I don't see a whole lot of details on how they're doing it.
Yeah, so I can't really talk about how they're doing it with regards to C data, but a good friend of mine runs a company called Deception Logic, which is in that same market. And I talked to him specifically about C data early on, and he was telling me exactly how he deploys, not how C data does, but how he deploys automating those kind of cloud-based, data-based, content-based tokens throughout everything you do. And he's got it down to a science where you can single-click deploy into just about any type of environment and have those canaries, if you want to call them canaries, like Thinkist does, but have those canaries in the coal mine kind of report back quickly. And I think the key thing to the reinvention of this market is not new. It's been around 7 or 8 years minimum, right, that I've known about this space. But the key
about
thing
10 years.
Finally, the key thing to this finally being successful is automation and ease of use, and finding ways so that users don't have to do anything, admins, security people don't have to do anything, and it just automatically flicks and based off of usage, based off of context, based off of what your environment looks like, what you've connected to, it just flicks the canary tokens into the correct spot. And I don't want to use that term generically because that is a Thinkist term, but
right. Honey tokens is the generic
the honey
version.
tokens, whatever you want to call them, into the correct spots in an automated way, and then pulls them down, moves them around, and kind of keeps it in a continually refreshing model. That is the reinvention that's occurring in this market, right? The automation, and really that comes from the fact that our infrastructure 5, 7, 8 years ago switched from being generic infrastructure to API-derived infrastructure. And now that everything is API-derived and API accessible, we can do these automations, and that might reinvigorate this market.
Right. Yeah, and it's I didn't know. So all of a sudden, I didn't know about deception logic either. But yeah, all of a sudden, like a market that's it's pretty late for this market, right? Like most of it's been acquired or has exited in some way. There were a couple exits that were not positive exits in this market because they and it all came back to friction. Like using deception for detection is a no-brainer if it doesn't take you a ton of labor to do it. So that was always the key at Thinkst is, 5 minutes you could have one of those things up and running, but you still did have the friction of having to decide, okay, what profile am I going to use? Where am I going to put it on the network? Right. And I imagine you've got to with this too, which is why I want to learn more about this. Like there still has to be some, they're just not going to throw them everywhere because you still have the balance of, I don't want employees to trip on these things and set off alarms, right? Like I only want the bad guys to do it. So there's some strategy you have to get into. Yeah.
So I would make the argument that we are in a world now from a cybersecurity perspective where context is everything, right? When we're doing an incident response handling, right? An incident occurs. What do the SOC people do? Well, they have to go look at the context around all of the things in your environment, the content, the logs, the activities, whatever, the new accounts, all that is context, right? And I think we're just now getting to the point, and like if you really want to future tech this, we could talk about AI overlays on context too. But I think the reality is we're just getting to the point where cybersecurity has a breadth of context, again, derived from the fact that we have so much API access to everything we do now that the context became accessible. And now we can load that context into a data lake and have that data lake analyzed. When we talk about that context, we can use the context to make smart decisions on where we put the tokens. Okay, so this whole segment of our box deployment or our data store or whatever hasn't been touched in 90 days. So let's stick a token there because if anything touches it, that's an alert. It's an issue. But this one's super active by all of our users. Let's not token that for now, right? So like you can use the context to even make smarter decisions on token deployment.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and tokens I think are really the most interesting place here. Like more and more we're moving away from IaaS and running infrastructure and things like that. So it's less about the honeypots and more about the, as we use more and more SaaS, there's the opportunity to use more and more tokens there. And
absolutely, yeah. Exciting company, exciting market. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, because literally I've had investment opportunities for 7 years in this space, and I've passed on all of them because I just haven't been excited by the market. But I think this is the reinvention that needs to occur.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's they still don't have credit card honey tokens though. That's pretty cool that Thinks did that.
Yeah, that's very cool. That was a really genius idea.
Fake Amex cards. I love it.
Brilliant.
But I mean, that's why I love this market in general, is there's so much room for creativity, and just the idea of setting traps for attackers just makes defense more fun to do.
Yep.
Let's see. Katie, what anything grabbed your attention in the news this week? We can go anywhere from this point.
Mute. Yeah. You know what the best part about this was? I said mute, and for those of you that aren't watching on video, Katie gave that, oh my God, I'm muted face, which you guys don't generally get to see when that occurs. So that made me smile.
That's the
well,
best
I
part.
coughed a few minutes ago, so I muted myself so I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah.
But
I've been
as
there.
I was
We've all
saying,
been there.
while on mute, I thought Andy Ellis's little blurb there, it's not really an article per se, but he tees up an Orca post, and he does it in the vein of the Passover holiday, which is happening, and he always has a way of laying things out there, which is just like really straightforward, and like come on, let's get behind what we know we have to do. So I was reading that before we started today and had fun with that. But it's not as much of an op-ed piece or a funding piece. It was just a fun little quick read.
You want to describe it?
Sure. So Orca Security put out a blog post on tracing cloud security issues back to code origins, and Andy commented on what the to do's and the not to do's, and using the Passover holiday, which is one of the major Jewish holidays, the 10 plagues of cloud security, looking through the things that we've all been talking about: alert fatigue, data sprawl, siloed tools, neglected assets, organizational friction, unmanaged APIs, context-free alerts. In other words, alerts you don't know what the hell to do with. Jews don't believe in hell, so there was my little.
Tyler was just talking about context. Yeah.
Overbroad entitlements, unclear ownership, and security-triggered outages. So these are things that we've been talking about for years and years and years, but wrapping them up in this nice little package. It was a fun little read. It takes a minute.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Like, what I liked about this, sure, whatever the Passover hooks, the funny little quips, sure. Andy's good at all of that, right? He's entertaining, if not educational. But the key thing about the 10 plagues that I thought was interesting is it's not the traditional garbage we tend to see. App vulns, network vulns, vuln management,
right.
Blah, 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 blah. Like the same garbage we've seen for a decade. Literally, I feel like the 10 plagues that he's putting in here that Katie just kind of ran down the bulk of really is the right way going forward to kind of think of how cybersecurity can get better. So where we've traditionally said, how can we innovate in network security, or how can we innovate in AppSec? How can we innovate in vuln management? How can we innovate in getting rid of alert fatigue? How can we innovate in getting rid of neglected assets? Now, notice it's just a different way of thinking the same thing, but more kind of focused on the true pain point that the buyer and the CISO has. So that's what I thought was really cool about this post is the 10 things he put on there are just really cool, really modern and unique way of looking at cyber.
Yeah, and really, if you just take everything he wrote and say, all right, what are the 10 plagues? Alert fatigue. All right, take the photo negative of that. How do we get rid of alert fatigue? What's the process? What are the tools we use? Awesome. Who's involved? Where is it involved? Data sprawl. Again, what do we have now? How do we use it? I mean, I think the answer to Andy's question specifically would be Orca. But if you look at it from a systemic point of view, it's everything. It's the people, it's the process, it's the technology, and just taking.
Yeah, Orca can't solve all of this. If Orca can solve all of this, they need to be worth $10 billion today.
Of course. No, there is no silver bullet for any of these, but
that's close to what their valuation is. Yeah, I mean it's up there.
I said they really need to be worth $10 billion today, not $10 billion on paper and really worth like $400 million or whatever they're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's I liked a lot of this too. Like I'm hearing more and more that alert fatigue is table stakes. Like CISOs don't want to buy another tool that's going to pump out, tens of thousands more alerts, for their teams. That's just conversation's not going to go any further as soon as they look at the demo and they see 250,000 critical alerts. And the one that was really interesting to me was the overbroad entitlements, because now, that I'm working for an SSPM, that's a huge thing in SaaS. Like the concept that you have all these IT admins who are on the business side. They're not in IT at all, but somehow they've got access over all your data in Notion, all your data in Google, maybe, and they're creating accounts for people. Maybe it's somebody in HR who's doing this stuff. It's and maybe in those cases it's not overbroad entitlements, but they need to be talking with security and with IT. Like there needs to be some collaboration there. Because they all of a sudden own, email for the company, or they own, a big chunk of, your data and the app that's managing your data and how it's configured.
And the interesting thing about this list is, you can look at this and you can say, all right, there are so many dependencies, even within just these 10, these 10 quote plagues. There are dependencies within them. And so it's none of these, just like he writes, siloed tools is a plague. These aren't siloed processes to master. It's all interconnected. Mm-hmm. I think the real fun of this would be trying to map which of these is the locusts, which is frogs, which are slain with the firstborn.
That would have taken some more time, but that would have been, you're right, that would have been more fun.
Come on, Andy, hold up your end of the bargain. Let's go.
Yeah. And I mean, to both your points, it's kind of like the fundamentals are shifting, and some of the old stuff that we think of as the basics and the fundamentals, some of those maybe should be replaced. Maybe managing, doing API discovery and API security should be one of those base, CIS top 18.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's time to shift around some of the old what we consider the basics.
For sure, APIs, configuration management. Those are topics that are top of mind for every company.
Yeah. The next one that has a fun clickbait title with a number in it is. One of my favorite writers, Kelly Shortridge, has, and this is very much in the vein of chaos and the stuff that she's been closely working on for a while. Resilience, things like that. Is just the idea of coming up with ways that things could go wrong and trying to anticipate those. So the title of the article is 69 Ways to F Up Your Deploy. And it's about just going through and breaking this stuff yourself so that you're prepared for anything later on. Is kind of the general concept of chaos engineering.
Yeah, bring your pillow. This sucker reads longer than Gone with the Wind.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still a fun read though. There's memes in there. All of her stuff is delightful to read. It's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
and
it's definitely entertaining, but it's not a sit and read in 4 minute.
It is 69 items.
Hey, I'm going to read this like a book for a week.
Yeah, and it's broken down into what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 categories of types. I guess ways that your deploys can break.
And she has 13 references at the bottom. Like she even did her citations.
She loves the footnotes.
Like, badass, totally badass.
Yeah.
Gotta have those citations.
Nah, I just plagiarize everybody. It's easier.
I was once in my first year of college. I was accused by a professor of plagiarizing, but he didn't check my endnotes.
And everything was in there? You were on the up and up, KT?
Of course it was in there.
I just used
But he gave me a B on the paper because he said I was plagiarizing. I'm like, first of all, if I was plagiarizing, I shouldn't get a B. But secondly, like, check your last page.
You gave me a B and you said I plagiarized? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Now I just use ChatGPT and can claim stupidity. Hey, ChatGPT plagiarized it. I didn't.
I don't think Samsung's going to be able to do that.
Let's go to that project. Let's talk about that one. Good transition.
So I think there's been some bad takes in the press here, and generally there's been some misunderstanding of how AI works. So absolutely, AI, large language tools like ChatGPT need a lot of human input to help with alignment, to help with fine tuning, to fix things. That's why when you go into ChatGPT, you get the little thumbs up, thumbs down, and if you click one of those, it'll ask you for more details, like why did you like this response? Why did you dislike this response? And they're using that to help make it better. But people seem to think that anything you throw into the prompt is going into the training model, and somebody can somehow magically pull it back out verbatim. Like if I type in my password, somebody can say, what's Adrian's password? And it's just going to hand it off. And that's just not how it works. So I did some digging here and found that if you use ChatGPT's consumer interface, either for free or the ChatGPT Plus, which is $20 a month. So that's if you're going to chat.openai.com and using that interface, you are opted in for them to do whatever with your prompts. So whatever data you're feeding it, they're going to use it to understand how to make the product better. They're not necessarily going to put it into a training model or into a fine-tuning model or anything like that. But yeah, consider it, think before you put stuff in there. But there is a form to opt out. And it's just a janky Google form, but there is a form where you can say, don't use my data. Much like you do with other services that ask, hey, can we collect your crash data and send it back for improving our service? So not that controversial. And then, one step better on the API interface, since that's more businesses and services that are using the API, their default opt out. And there's a form you can fill out if you want to opt in and let them train off your data. But I like that they opt out on the API interface by default.
Yeah, this is going to be a problem. This whole opt-in, opt-out, learning large language modules and self-learning is going to be a massive problem over time, right? Because if these systems get a hold of large troves of data, back to your point from 30 minutes ago about 90% of data being open on the internet, if you know the link, like if it can get a hold of that stuff, it can train on it, it can learn on it, and it's going to have it in the database, whether you've opted in or out. Like, this is going to continue to be a massive problem as AI becomes the dominant form of how we work every day. And I know I sound like some kind of future tech weirdo, but I fully believe that AI overtakes a huge portion of what we do every day. I'm already massively working it into my daily workflows for everything I do. And I like with the launch of Microsoft Copilot last week. I don't know if you guys have seen the Copilot videos, but this stuff's amazing. Like, it's going to be the way that we do cyber. You're going to bring up your Microsoft Copilot or what your OpenAI Security Pilot or whatever the company that monetizes it is, and you're just going to say, show me my list of vulnerabilities for today. Prioritize these based off these 5 criteria. Help me fix them. Please fix this one. Like, literally, that is going to become the interactive model for how we operate day to day in cyber. It's a matter of when, not if. And I think the privacy concerns of the data collection aspect of it is super, super important to lock down. It's very, very scary.
Well, I think we should back up maybe a second for those who are listening and either can't or haven't yet seen the notes, and talk about why we're talking about this.
Yeah, I jump right to the end. That's where I live. You go ahead and talk about the boring stuff.
You're one of those people who watches the last 5 minutes of the movie and then you're done. So unfortunately, and I'm sure Samsung is not the only company, I'm sure there have been many, many others that aren't in the news. Samsung, some of their private information, their intellectual property, they were using, some of the team members, some of the employees were using ChatGPT, not quite understanding what the back end looked like. Not quite understanding what Adrian was talking about, where there is an opt-in for training data model and an opt-out under OpenAI. And so things like meeting notes, new source code, and other proprietary information that should have been kept private wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't malicious. Either way, it's a form of a data leak for them. And probably a lot of people like Tyler are pretty psyched about this whole idea of being able to use AI and automation in their daily workflow, and they're forging ahead, but not thinking about the implications of what does that mean? Trading data is usually anonymized, so that de-risks a tiny bit. But for a lot of companies, they don't want any of that out there. What if somebody can somehow decipher? Because when there's data, people can look at it, they can find it. So if there's a will, there's a way, right? So Samsung had a big issue with this, and probably other companies too. And it's just a word of warning to be careful, to check your terms and conditions, to check what's happening. Don't just click that accept all. When the cookies pop up for years and years, most people just click accept all. You don't have to do that. And in the case of ChatGPT and the Open API, you don't have to opt in to training data. Does it make the model better? Of course it does. Does it keep you as private and secure? No, unfortunately it doesn't. That's one of the downsides. Hi, Tyler.
Well, I don't even think this is going into the model. And this is the bit I'm pushing back on, is calling this a data leak is a bit of a stretch. It's like calling it a data leak because they uploaded that same data to OneDrive, right? Like, it's a SaaS service that they're using. Like, there's no expectation that unless OpenAI has another bug like they had with the Redis database and some of the prompt data got leaked between different customers, there's no reasonable expectation that this data is going to somehow become available in the model. So like these articles are saying things like, oh, now the data is in the wild. No, it's not. A malicious insider at OpenAI can access it, but it's not in the wild.
This example is a little inflammatory, but I think the message really for people to take away is to just read the small print, and also to consider what your company's strategy is.
Yeah. And so it's more of
your business. It's your business decision. It's your IP. You get to decide what to do with it. If you're at the decision maker level, roll that out. My company did. They rolled out a formal policy a few weeks ago and said, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do.
Exactly. So governance around how you onboard SaaS. What are you allowed to do with the SaaS? What kind of data are you allowed to plug in there as prompts? What use cases are you allowed to use it for? That's all stuff that we all need to be thinking about now, because whether you're aware of it or not, your employees are probably using it. And yeah, you would have to understand the use cases that, it's really good at optimizing code and writing code and stuff like that. So of course, people are going to be throwing proprietary code in there. Let's see what else we have here. So number 14, I thought was interesting. This is from a ways back, an older thread from January, but Clint Gibler, who runs the TLDR newsletter, really great guy, interesting dude, and cool newsletter. If you're not currently checking that out, it's definitely worth subscribing to.
It's a top newsletter. It's the top 3 newsletter in cyber. So if you haven't checked it out, please go check it out. It's absolutely amazing.
Also worth mentioning, like a lot of what's in the news today, including this one, did come from the security funded newsletter. So just a quick shout out on that one also, because I beg, borrow, and steal a lot from that newsletter.
Yep.
So thanks to Mike Privet for that. But yeah, this is just a list of companies who have done large scale Yubikey, WebAuth, and rollouts. And in the TLDR here is it's not as easy as you might think. You know, there are some tricky things about doing this. You know, anything from just physically getting the security key to all your employees globally, to actually getting them to use it and figuring out, like, to what extent are you going to use it. And one of the things I found really interesting reading through some of these is that a lot of folks are just using the security key once. And once they use the Yubikey, from then on, they're just using Touch ID or Face ID from that point on. You know, they're not requiring employees to use the Yubikey every time they authenticate. They're letting them use the system authenticator.
You know why?
Because it's easier. Friction, yeah.
Identification, authentication, authorization will always fail or succeed based on level of friction. That's it. And actually, you can even extend that thesis to most cybersecurity will fail or succeed based on friction. But 100%, that one is so friction dependent. You have to have the frictionless solution.
Definitely easier to lose a Yubikey Nano than it is your fingerprint or your face.
Absolutely.
If you're losing your fingerprint or your face, you got bigger problems.
Precisely.
Exactly.
Well put, Katie.
Although I did once actually cut my finger cleaning, unloading the dishwasher, and it really mucked up my authentication for almost a month. I couldn't. This was a few years ago, and I had a thumbprint, and I couldn't use the thumbprint reader.
Always enroll more than one on each hand. Like I always do, like either both index fingers or both thumbs.
So
yes, that was a hard lesson to learn.
Funny story. I do both fingers and thumbs as well for the same reason. I do all of these, right? And for those that aren't looking, it's index and middle finger and thumbs on both hands are registered. But funny story. I was working as a cybersecurity consultant, probably 10, 15 years ago, and one of my fellow consultants called into work sick, and the reason he called into work sick was because he had injured a finger, broken a finger, and couldn't remember what his password was without just typing it. But he had broken a finger and couldn't authenticate because he couldn't remember what his password was.
That's crazy.
Without actively typing it.
No,
but why did he call in sick? I don't understand that part.
Because he couldn't authenticate to log into work. He couldn't get into his computer to work. He couldn't authenticate. He couldn't type his password. His fingers were broken.
No, I get that, but why did he have to call in sick? Why couldn't he have just called IT and...
Because he was a crappy employee. I don't know. That's what he did. I'm just saying it's a funny story, Katie. Come on. You're killing me.
I don't get it. Like, I don't get why he couldn't have just called IT and been like, all right, I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah, reset my password, right?
Actually, it's what he ended up doing. I just think it took like a half a day to get it done or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, mine's always going to be in my my password database on my phone. So yeah, it's I don't know, it's a pretty shit reason, but it's a funny one. I love the story. It's a good story.
I mean, it's a good story.
You like it. You got it. Katie, on the other hand, whatever.
No, I just don't understand why you had to call in sick.
Katie, stop. You're being pedantic. Stop.
Actually, so behind the scenes, Sam has a really good answer for that, but we'll just leave it at that. We love our production crew.
Adrian, get control of this shenanigans. Where are we going?
We are going to another newsletter that might be worth your time checking out. Only 2 of them so far, but Jason Haddix, who a lot of people know him from his time at Bug Crowd. He's done a lot of speaking work. He's done a lot of helped out a lot of folks getting into the industry, written up a lot of good stuff on that. He now has a newsletter called Executive Offense, which is a great name. And yeah, pretty good. The subtitle here is The Old and New Buckets Ransomware FIDO to Chat Ops. Oh, maybe that's just for this particular newsletter. But yeah, it's covering a variety of different things, everything from policy to cloud to hacking and stuff like that. And there's some good stuff in here. And correction, the thread from Clint Gibbler that we just went over did not come from Security Funded. It came from this one. It came from this newsletter.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I signed up for this the minute I saw it come live. Before he even posted his first post, I heard a rumor that he was putting one out there. I got onto Substack. I think it was Substack. Or Beehive. He's doing a Beehive. I got onto Beehive and instantly subscribed before he had even put out his first post. Definitely going to be a good content creator if he sticks with it.
Yeah. Let's see what else we've got here. Thought it was interesting so I don't know how I feel about this. So North Dakota is, the schools there are including, and it is statewide. So the governor signed a bill that's going to put cybersecurity into school, basically include it in the what's the term? Syllabus? Curriculum? Yeah, curriculum is the word I'm looking for.
Curriculum or syllabus work.
Yeah, my brain is I've apparently only got 10 minutes of brain power left for this podcast before it's just going to leak out my ears. It's been a long week. But yeah, I thought this was interesting because the thing, and I haven't looked at curriculums here in a while. My kids are teenagers; they've been through high school. But I would think, to me, the more important thing would be what they call digital citizenship, I think is the term that they use, which is more about just understanding the concepts of the internet, the fact that if you post something, it's publicly available, everybody can see it, assume it lives forever, learn how to use a search engine, how to find things online, being aware of trolling and bullying and just all the kinds of crap that you encounter online. I would hope that that's kind of a precursor to anything that's more cybersecurity related, or maybe even built into it. So yeah, I'd be interested to see how they're building this into these curriculums, how they're teaching it. And there's a lot of links here, that I'll probably dig into later. I didn't have a chance to dig into much of it yet. But yeah, that's North Dakota of all states. Apparently, is the first to sign a bill that puts both computer science and cybersecurity into school coursework from kindergarten through the 12th grade. Yeah,
that's fantastic. I fell in love with it myself as a passion in 7th grade even. I think I got my first modem in like 6th or 7th grade. But I mean, look, I just happened to have a passion for it and fell in love with it. I was not exposed to it in any formal way in high school. So the earlier we can get that exposure, I think the better.
Yeah, I don't even remember it being an option when I was in school. It might have been. I was so focused in other areas that it might have been an option, but it wasn't a mainstream option, for sure. I didn't even have a computer in undergrad. I went to a computer lab.
Yeah, we had computer labs and stuff like that, but that was the extent of it. I don't think any of it was even connected to the internet back in those days. Yeah, talking about showing our age. I've got another Daniel Meisler post here. AI revolutionizes InfoSec. So this post is mostly just him going through what are all the different use cases that he can think of that AI can be used for.
I highly recommend reading that post and reading the series of posts that Daniel has been putting out around AI and specifically AI and cyber. He's a super interesting dude. I had a conversation with him about how he's so prolific in his content creation. Like, it's constant. Mm-hmm. He's constantly cranking out more stuff. He doesn't watch TV. Like, I think he recently might have changed that. But back a couple of years ago when I asked him how he managed to get so much stuff done, he said, I don't do anything that's not this. Like, he just doesn't focus on any distractions. And so when it comes to deep dive in a tech topic like this, there's nobody better than him. And what I found is his output. I wanted to put out all the output that he put out about AI and cyber, and he's just ripped it. He just killed it. Yeah. I can't do anything because he's so far ahead of anybody else. He's really doing an amazing job.
And we're going to have him on as a guest. He's agreed to come on, and we're going to have an entire episode dedicated to just talking about AI, particularly the large language model AI and the impact it's going to have to the security space and to business in general. So we're going to have him on back to back with another gentleman who is the founder of a company who actually makes a product that builds these large language models off of your data internally in your company, which is something I didn't even realize was happening until, and it was just a PR person that suggested him to me. And I watched another podcast he was on, and I was like, holy crap, this is the stuff we were talking about happening in 6 months. And here it is. It's already happening.
I'm coming out of partial retirement for that one, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll have Tyler on those on that whole episode, hopefully.
Absolutely.
So one more essay here, number 21, from conflict to collaboration. So this is from Lenny Zeltzer, and co-worker of yours, Katie.
Yep.
And he's got a version both on dark reading and on his own website. The version on dark reading is just not loading for me. It's just a blank page. But maybe I should have used his link instead. There it goes. But yeah, I mean, the general idea, like I've heard this described as user-centric security and user-focused security, but the idea that, security shouldn't be working in isolation, that they should be, should be interacting with users more and collaborating on, how to implement policies and things like that. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, that security needs to understand the business, how it works, how these workflows work before just jumping into it and breaking shit, right? I mean, this is a path we've been on, long since the Department of No had to go away.
What is cybersecurity without users? Jokingly, for years, I've always said cybersecurity would be a million times or a million times easier without having to deal with the stupid users at the other end of the food chain. But if you get rid of the users, there's no point in cybersecurity, right? They literally are the reason we do security.
Yeah. All right, and the Squirrel Story here. I don't know if you both got a chance to watch this video. True, complete non sequitur here. Has nothing to do with security or technology. Maybe somewhat with safety, like vehicle safety is pretty amazing these days. That this car and the person involved in this automotive accident was able to just get up and walk. Oh, you're watching it for the first time. We're watching Katie's.
Goodness, I think that's the benefit of the 3-up. Okay, that was really horrific.
We just got to see Katie's real-time response to that, and it was exactly what I would expect.
Yeah, that video is freaking epic. I have never seen a car go that high in the air in my life. Absolutely insane. And I really like kind of being able to play with the squirrels in 3-up mode while you're talking. Kind of cool.
Yeah, so for audio listeners, what's happening in this video is a Tesla with its cameras that can basically function as dash cams captured this. But this Kia Soul is alongside a pickup truck that has those, it's got a lift kit on it. It's got bigger wheels and tires, and the wheels and tires are spaced out. So I'm assuming like the bolts weren't long enough or the spacers failed. Something failed where the entire front driver's side tire comes off right in front of a Kia Soul. And the moment that rotating the rotational energy meets the front bumper of the Kia Soul, it throws the Kia Soul easily 6 to 8 feet up in the air, flips it on its back. Well, more than
that. It was probably 4 times the height of the car.
Yeah. Lands on the roof.
You know what's really funny about this, though, is it's a Kia Soul, and this is our Squirrel Story, right?
They were hamsters.
Isn't that the hamster car? It's pretty close enough, right?
I think squirrels would be upset that you're calling them hamsters.
Small rodents. It's a small rodent story. Exactly.
Well, did Kia have some kind of campaign or commercial with hamsters in it?
You don't remember the dancing hamster
You don't remember the
commercial?
dancing hamsters?
I haven't watched TV in 20 years.
LMFAO? Like, I can even sing you the song if I wouldn't be so embarrassed to do it live.
Oh, come on. I got to do it.
I haven't watched I can't even go back either. Like,
Adrian, your assignment for next week, TV, your assignment for next week is to Google dancing hamsters Kia Soul and watch the video.
Oh, all right.
And since we're totally on a Squirrel Story and we're about to wrap up, that brings to mind the hamster in the microwave from 20 years ago. It's awful. It's terrible. It is hysterical. Look it up.
All right, are you talking the Joe's? What was that called? Joe's cartoon? Are you talking about the animated thing?
Yes.
Where he put he'd have animals in blenders and stuff like that.
No. It's an animated thing where you put this cartoon hamster in a microwave, and you go through if you put it on one, what happens to the hamster, and then you hit the 2 button, and what happens?
What is it, Gus? Yeah. Flash is totally what I was thinking of. I forgot the name of the.
It's the same concept, different animal in a different type of.
Yeah,
appliance.
I think it's the same creator. It's the same Yeah, Joe cartoon. Yeah, gerbil in a microwave.
This bouncing Kia Soul flying through the air video has received over 18.1 million views by this point.
Mine is saying 34.8 million views.
Wow, there's been a fast 18 in the last minute and a half then.
And the original one says 53.1 million views.
Wow, crazy. Definitely go look at it.
That's just
Squirrel Story of the day, Hamster Story of the day.
Crazy stuff, and fairly happy ending. that nobody got hurt. Amazing, nobody got hurt out of that. But yeah, I thought that was a rare thing. If you go through that thread, there are 4 other videos of the same exact thing happening, and it's typically coming off some kind of jacked up pickup truck or a commercial semi or big commercial truck. Crazy stuff happens way more often than I thought it did. All right. And with that, thanks for joining me, guys. This has been a lot of fun, Katie and Tyler.
Thank you, Adrian.
We are done for this week. Next week, I'm going to be running Paul Security Weekly. We're going to be pre-recording the episode that we air during RSA and doing our regular ESW. So I'll be doing 3 podcasts next week. So come join me on Paul Security Weekly, and we'll be back here for Enterprise Security Weekly next week. Thanks, everybody.